Good coffee morning, neighbors. Trying to get a little familiar with the hummingbirds, getting them to come back, so maybe we'll do a hummingbird isolation video, distancing video. So I do keep a distance to keep them wild. I don't want them to want to come to people and land. That, and I can't tell if I'm seeing the same one twice, so new glasses help, that's nice. So, what's on the mind this morning? When I hired in as a chemical engineer at a plant, it required having things like a lung capacity test every year, part of the job. Everyone was going through orientation and safety, and then there was follow-up training after that. So if you've been in the military, you know how these routines go about doing drills. But one of the something new I learned going through that training in classward was personal safety devices, personal protective devices, and safety training. So when we got into the gas mask class, one of the instructors noticed I put my gas mask on so fast I was done before anybody else, because I'd prepped the mask in the case. So when I pulled it out, it would go on quickly, and I knew what the fuck I was doing because I'd done it before. So just the ease of putting that on, the ability to just do it, not think about why, brought back from after a few years of the last time I'd had to use that kind of training. So that was interesting. That kind of gave me a perspective on what I know about chemical warfare versus what the average person off the street going to work in a chemical plant knows about it. So that wasn't the interesting part. But that was a lesson. There's this thing called situational awareness that some people just key on specific aspects of things and follow it. And it can be devastating. It's a PTSD type of thing. That's where it comes out, or it's a relationship, right? So this situational awareness keys some people because they're aware. And I turned that on to put a gas mask on, because the only reason I do it is to practice or an emergency. But the interesting part was later on, when they introduced us to emergency air packs. In this chemical plant are cracking towers, separation towers, mixing towers, steam-heated, temperature-controlled towers used to separate gases. They have trays and materials in them, catalysts in them maybe, to do certain things, and recombine all the materials in the gas at the lower half of that column into something different at the top, or split out, fractioning columns. So these columns have sample points on them for my gas analyzers, and I go out and check the analyzers once in a while. Now there's tradesmen that do this work, but we're still working out scheduling and frequency, and also how these sample probes are working. So it's an investigation of every sample point for pressures, pressure stability, stability over time. Is something in the gas stream corroding O-rings in some of the sample system parts, the pipes? So now I've got leaking gas lines running for meters across the plant, and inside not closed sheds, they're ventilated sheds where the instruments are. So anyway, you're climbing up these towers. One of these emergency devices is up at the top. And again, I just hadn't seen these. It's not that you wouldn't think about it, but basically it has enough air in it to get you from whatever level you're on down, depending on your breathing rate, 2 to 4 more, 6 more flights of stairs to the next gas bag. It's a plastic bag you pull over your head, and a little air cartridge that simply feeds that bag with air. Keeps it a positive pressure in there. And it's enough air, positive pressure, to keep all the gases out of your breathing them in, or burning your face off if they're caustic. So you've got this plastic bag on your head, and you're running down the stairs, and you hope the next plastic bag is there. Or you grab it because there's still air in this bag, and you take it down to maybe somebody that missed it, or you put it in your pocket. So maybe you only use every second one, but you take some down with you, or you make sure there's one for the guy behind you, eh? So, when you see those big towers, you might be able to see a little box up at the top of them, and it might have, or you might have to have a respirator on to even go up the tower. So, just a little piece of safety and security, because accidents happen, and the chemical industry is aware of that and does what they can. We had the most process instruments on this was two plants. One made plastic, I talked about before, and the other one made 2-ethylhexanol, which is an oil used internally by the steel industry to lubricate, coat pipes, keep them from rusting, run machine tools, depending on how it's processed and where it's used. So that plant ran balls to the wall when it could. It was output was kind of matched to what the steel industry was doing, and a specific, just a few steel plants, because it was owned. Well, so that was 2-ethylhexanol. That side had 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 process chromatographs. 6 originals were gas chromatographs, sampling processes, total mileage, they were miles of sample lines. And then more instruments were added as requirements in the process to make the 2-ethylhexanol better, more efficiently, less waste. So additional analyzers were added. One was a flame ionization detector. Those are interesting. FID. Flame photometric detectors. One was another shed and house off down by a waste sewage plant that was analyzing for total VOCs in wastewater. So the drain water coming off of the site for reasons, for an incident, had to be monitored. So that was an instrument that I helped commission and start up, and about that time I left. Didn't have to play with it much because it had a sludge pump to feed the process, that sample line, and it just meant a lot of maintenance. So plant safety, Scott air packs. These were Scott products, if you know that line. The big air packs and tanks were down at the base of the both facilities. Not enough, but it was enough. Again, the AI that ran that brand new plant, a global benchmark plant. It's just an interesting place to be.